And 25th Las Vegas. Check this out, right? Yeah, this is dope. I don't know if I want to do it. We'll do it later.
Welcome, All Elite Wrestling fans, to the second episode of the All Elite Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Andrew Kazir, joined today by AJ Fitzgerald and a new voice this week, Phillip Diminno. Phil, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going?
I'm a recent graduate from SUNY Oswego. I've been watching wrestling since 2003, and my favorite wrestler is probably JBL.
Thank you for that, Phil. And AJ, how has your week been?
My week's been good. I did voice acting for an art installment that's going to be displayed locally in spring. So that was fun.
Nice. I've been doing some stuff for my own personal website, just trying to promote some music locally and that kind of stuff. But this week we have some news coming from both Being the Elite as well as a new episode of Road to Double or Nothing, and that included a match announcement and some new talent announcements as well. But before we get into the Road to Double or Nothing or Being the Elite, let's talk about some news regarding All Elite Wrestling re-releasing some more tickets to Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Cody said they were able to make space, and I don't remember the details of it, but I guess they just worked with the MGM Grand to create a lot more seats, not just like, oh, we got like 10 more seats. Like, it was a few hundred, right?
Yeah, they actually re-released 200 seats. They said it was due to some production kills, so they were planning out the layout of the event and were able to re-release some new seats. And there's even some talk that they might re-release some more seats. Some people think that this might be like a planned thing to keep All Elite Wrestling in the news. Phil, what do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea because they sold out in 4 minutes, and it gives more people a chance to actually attend the event.
Yeah.
He's totally right. Like, because you are on the news that way. Like, that is something where people will want to be updated all the time.
Yeah, people are going to pay attention to that Twitter account and make sure if they're re-releasing new tickets, if they got a chance to buy them. And it's going to keep them in the news. Every time they sell out every 200 or whatever, it'll still be news. It might not be that crazy because it does seem like a planned thing that they're doing. They're trying to have these tickets and then every few weeks sort of re-release 200 more or 200 more to keep the news going. But it's a smart way to stay in the news.
Yeah.
And then in another bit of news, Chris Jericho had a promo on drawing the house for the Double or Nothing show. The interesting thing about this promo is that some people have seen it somewhat of as a worked shoot. During Jericho's interview on the Wrestling Observer podcast, Jericho seemed sort of irritated that the wrestlers were all patting each other on the back for the fact that they had sold out this show. They had sold out 14,000 tickets. And in Jericho's eyes, he thinks he sold out the house by himself, and that's what this promo sort of indicates.
Yeah, I do think it's work shoot, and I don't think that takes away from it. I think it's cool. I really think, like, I want it to be a work shoot, and I want, like, more stuff like this to happen on the Observer specifically. If it's not, if it's just a shoot, like, oh man. But that's interesting in its own way, I guess. But I mean, I think so, because it was on, like, we're going to get to it later, but it was on, like, Road to Double or Nothing, right? Or Being the Elite. It's gotta be, right? Because, like, why would Jericho after just signing?
Well, I don't know. Do you think that Jericho is right, though? Do you think that
for sure.
He's a big part of
I don't
drawing
think as
the
many
house?
people would have really turned their head to go, oh, is AEW really something if Jericho didn't sign? Because, I mean, that's what made me go, like, oh, this like, all-in thing is, like, real. Like, this is a real thing they're doing. This is important. The moment Jericho signed, that really did make me think, like, this is a big-scale thing. Like, they're throwing money to sign Chris Jericho. Like, that takes a good amount of money. You remember when he turned to WWE, though, and, like, there was the whole thing where they were bidding over him, TNA and WWE, like, they were giving real offers and took a lot of money, and, like, for obvious reasons, WWE won. They're the bigger company, but they got to be throwing real money out.
Alright, yeah, first of all, I don't think Jericho is actually feeling this way. I feel like if he really did feel that way, why would he join a company with lesser star power where he is very obviously going to be the biggest star on the card basically every single night?
Well, I think he might have just wanted to be, like, thanked from the other guys. Like, thanks for helping us sell out.
I mean, that's fair. And it's like, I don't follow Twitter that much, so, like, I guess, I mean, nobody did though. I'm sure. Like nobody was like, "Oh, thank you, Jericho." So I guess you're right. Like he does have a point. Like if if it is a real thing, he does have a point that he's right. But I can't imagine him really being like, I don't know, bitter about that. I don't think he'd care. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I agree with mostly everything that AJ said. I agree that Jericho is kind of the guy that made more people pay attention to this, especially casual fans. Like my friends I know didn't really pay this company any mind until Jericho jumped on board.
Yeah, and I think something that's really telling about the company in general is if you look at Twitter and the social media following for stars like the Young Bucks and even Kenny Omega, these guys, they have a big following, but it's not even close to the following that Jericho has. Jericho has something like 3 million followers, and Kenny Omega might have 300,000. So even though it's just social media, Jericho has a much larger reach than the rest of those guys just on that platform alone. And then his years of work and just wrestling in general. So I think he definitely has a right to feel like he drew the house. And I think it's if it is a worked shoot, it's smart. It's a smart way to work it because it's believable with how Jericho can be.
And like if somebody came at me saying they really, really believed it, I can't like be like, oh, you're an idiot. Like, because it's on the Observer. It's Chris Jericho just talking. So, like, it totally could be real. I'm not saying it's definitely not. I just have a hard time believing it. It could be, though. And it's like, it's a great way to do this.
Right. And, like, he cut the promo actually just on his own and sort of put it on Twitter. And then he, like, discussed it with Meltzer on the podcast, sort of just airing his grievances of, like, why he decided to do that promo on his own accord.
Oh, see, that's interesting because I didn't know that it was posted there beforehand.
But no, just the way that he has sort of promoted this and set the company up to have a top heel just in Jericho himself. He plays a great heel whenever he needs to anyway, but to be an old guy complaining about these younger guys not just giving him his paid due and his respect and then going on the Wrestling Observer and doing an interview, like, that almost makes me think it's a work more so than anything is just because Jericho's smart enough to say, let's go do the Observer right after I do the interview and play it up a little bit, and people are going to buy into it, and then I'm going to be the most hated guy on the internet because people are going to think I'm an idiot.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And then just speaking of that promo, they actually had an awesome mention of it at the end of Road to Double or Nothing Episode 4. But before we jump to Episode 4, let's run down a couple of things that happened in Episode 3, as we didn't have a lot of time to do that last week. The beginning of Episode 3 of Road to Double or Nothing, they basically just covered the Double or Nothing press conference, which we did have a chance to go over mostly last week. But AJ, was there anything during the Road to Double or Nothing video that stuck out to you in the beginning that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, Britt Baker has sour grapes. She's bitter. I like it. This is like, no, she's not. But like it was her and Brandy had her on the phone. And she was like, it seemed like you had your thing going on with Nyla, and it's like, oh, she's not feeling a part of it.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting for Britt Baker to have called Brandy and sort of inserted herself into a picture of saying she had felt left out, and to then the way they promoted it of Brandy saying, okay, we'll find a way to get you in the match, and then they sort of revealed it towards the end of the episode with the match card printout.
Yeah, and Brandy was hyping her up, too. She was like, we have big things planned for you, and we meant everything we said, and you're going to be a great, like, star here. And it's like, okay. Because I mean, full disclosure, I don't know who a lot of the people on the roster are. I think that's, like, a big thing here is bringing in people from all areas and a lot of places I haven't seen. And like I said, I haven't been watching wrestling for, like, until recently, like, back with wrestling. So, do you know about Britt Baker? Because, like, I feel like you might, right?
I know that Britt Baker's the wife of Adam Cole. I know that she's been wrestling for a while, also been the dentist thing is a shoot. so she's been doing that on the side as well.
She's
which
a
I
real
think,
dentist?
Yeah, and I think that people really respect that.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like when you find out David Otunga actually graduated from Harvard Law, it's like, I hate him less.
Right, and that's why Britt Baker came out to Adam Cole's theme song on the All In show. It was just sort of an homage to her husband and
Oh,
things like
yeah.
Oh, I'm glad that they're fleshing out her character a little more, because I feel like one of the most important things that AEW needs to do is to make sure that each character has their own individual personality, and people can't just be people. Like, Britt Baker has a reason to legitimately be jealous because one of her opponents on this card, Nyla Rose, was in a lot of news outlets recently because of her signing and the implications that come with that. And she had a press conference, and she was there at the event, and Britt Baker, her opponent, was kind of not even really thought of. She was kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, Kylie Ray, Nyla Rose, and no Britt Baker. Like, I didn't find out Britt Baker was here until that Double or Nothing.
Yeah, it was a creative way to announce the match. I believe what had happened was Britt Baker wasn't able to attend the press conference just due to a previous event or something that she had to attend, and because of that, they just sort of storylined it out. So they announced the match with Nyla Rose and Kylie Ray, and then had Britt Baker sort of explain that she was frustrated with being left out
That's
of
cool.
that, even though in reality she just couldn't make it there. And then off of that, they were able to incorporate it into Road to Double or Nothing and reveal this triple threat match, which is exciting because Britt Baker has a little bit of a name going for her. There's obviously the factor of Nyla Rose being the first transgender female athlete just in general. So that's an interesting step for All Elite Wrestling to take in general, to just consistently open these doors for so many different people.
Yeah, and it's cool. And like the listening, like she's getting a lot of press for that right now. Like, because I mean, people are looking at this promotion, and like, again, this is getting more eyes on the product and more people finding out, like, oh, there's a billionaire backing this wrestling promotion. Like, this is a real wrestling promotion. And I think that just helps. And I don't think that's the only reason they signed her. I don't think like that's the only reason they're going for Nyla Rose. I'm sure the match is going to be awesome, or they wouldn't have even bothered with getting her.
The announcement of that match also brought another interesting announcement along with it. We got to see that Brandy giving the promo pictures to Cody Rhodes, and Cody mentioned at the end of that Brandy was not including herself on the card once again, which is an interesting thing, I believe. I believe that Brandy focusing on the women's division, as they said from the beginning, is a great thing, and the way that they're playing it up on the Road to Double or Nothing is really smart too.
I don't think like this event, but like, do you think it's like a play? Like, do you think Brandy's gonna start coming into wrestling more like down the line a few events in, or like because I felt like they were kind of setting it up. I don't know that they are, because it might have just been a way to say, hey, she's not going to be wrestling, which is totally cool. But like, I also felt like there's a chance that like, oh, she's gonna like throw some hands.
I think Brandy really excels in like a valet role, or like had a female talent relations role. Like, I really don't want too much emphasis on, is Brandy gonna wrestle? Who's she gonna wrestle? Brandy, in my opinion, isn't good enough for me to
Not yet.
actively be interested in her being an in-ring in-ring presence.
And I asked Andrew in the last podcast, like, how, like, is Brandy good? Because like I said, I hadn't watched wrestling in a year, and so I wanted to know, like, in that year, I know she's been wrestling, but I haven't seen any of the matches, and so it's cool, like, that she's training and she's getting better, and so I wouldn't mind, like, in a year or so, when like she's like a really like proficient wrestler, her stepping into the ring for a match, but I don't want to see it right now.
No, I agree, though. I agree that Brandy definitely excels more in a general manager type of role. I think that with her being Cody Rhodes' wife, it's kind of impossible for her to be booked as a lower card athlete anyway, and she's really not an upper card talent. So I think this is the best case scenario, and the way they're presenting it is that she really is interested in this, And if they really do have her and Kenny Omega sort of working together to just scout female talent, and the Cody Rhodes just got paid by this company, so if she's really just all she has to do for a job is sit at home and scout female talent, then maybe she's part of the reason that they're bringing in some of these Stardom females and just some of those things as well. So I think it's exciting to just keep Brandy in that role. Don't transition outside of that.
Yeah. What is her on-screen role, do you think? Because, like, is it just, like, the women's general manager, or is she more like a general manager? Because I know we're going to get to it in a second, but, like, with Cody's match, like, she said, like, do you expect me to make this happen? So, like, it seems like she's also in the position of, like, the, like, general booker, I guess?
Yeah, she has some sort of authority role.
Which is cool. Like I said, I like that.
She's also a manager for Cody and Flip Gordon, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad with it being Brandy. And actually, speaking of Flip Gordon, he's someone that people are thinking could be Cody Rhodes' surprise opponent just due to his history with Brandy Rhodes. At the end of this episode of Road to Double or Nothing, Brandy was handed a match card and they blurred out Cody's opponent, and Brandy was questioning, are you going to do this match? Is this really what you want to do? And some people are having a feeling that that could be a continuation of the storyline that they've had with him and Flip Gordon constantly being there for Brandy. Who do you guys think could possibly be Cody's opponent at Double or Nothing?
I'm totally fine if it's Flip Gordon, but if they're going to go that route, then we need context. We need to not assume that everybody knows the history between Flip Gordon and Cody, because there are some people coming into this with fresh eyes and they don't know the whole story, and if we just assume that the audience knows the story, then some people are going to feel lost. They don't know why these people dislike each other so much. They don't know the history between the three people in question.
Whoever's watching the show, it's still Flip Gordon versus Cody. It's going to be a good match. So you don't need it, but I think, like, if they have the match, they're probably going to do something with Brandy at ringside or whatever. And so but I think you could figure everything out with context. And I'm sure the commentary, like, they did a good job at All In of explaining everything. Like, they explained the whole Flip Gordon Cody situation, and I mean, like, they broke it down in like a minute, and then I was totally up to speed, and it was cool. Like, I think they're doing a good job of that.
Yeah, I think that if it is Flip Gordon, that they will do a good job of just breaking it down for the fans. But I honestly don't think it's Flip Gordon anyway. I think that it could be some of the other rumored possibilities. People have said some stuff like perhaps Goldust. There have also been rumors that it could be Marty Scurll. There are reports that his contract with Ring of Honor could be up in April. And obviously Double or Nothing is in May, and this is a creative way to sort of promote that match without having to announce someone who's already signed to another company.
I want it to be Marty Scurll because, God, that would be so many levels. Just one, Marty Scurll joining AEW, and two, a big, like, main event tier match with Cody that would really put him, like, as an established guy in AEW, which is, I think, where he would need to be.
I agree that Marty is probably the best choice for actual in-ring quality for how good the match will be. But I also kind of want it to be Goldust because it sounds like something I would have booked in EWR 5 years ago.
The point we were making last week actually was that this company is sort of like a fantasy book company, so that wouldn't be that surprising to see Cody Rhodes versus Goldust. It would be cool too.
I mean, it would be an interesting choice. That's what I'll say, but I wouldn't hate it at all. I would kind of love it, actually. It would be really cool. I mean, I remember whenever in WWE, they kind of, like, were doing that. They did a Cody versus Goldust thing, but it kind of, like, they didn't give it the attention I really wanted it to have. I think they got, like, a pre-show match or something, and it was quick, and it was like, you built this up, and it was cool, and so I would actually kind of like to see them get to do that.
Well, if they did that route, I really hope that there's no mentions of Stardust.
I think there could be some tongue-in-cheek things, but I don't think they would go too deep with it.
I was going to say tongue-in-cheek they do a lot of tongue-in-cheek references about things, so I could easily see something, like, talked about, but not exactly, like, directly focused on. Just like a quick little thing.
And that closes out the majority of episode 3 of Road to Double or Nothing. Going into episode 4 of Road to Double or Nothing, I felt that this episode was really one of the better episodes. I think it was the standout episode thus far. They opened the episode with Cody discussing the fact of the Over the Budget Battle Royal, how it came to be in the first All-In show, and then the fact that they were going to bring the Over the Budget Battle Royal back this time once again to just put talent on the map. And it was interesting, the way Cody promoted this match made me believe that this could really be the best match on the card, even though in general Battle Royals really aren't the best match on the card. Just the way he spoke on it and the way he presented it made it feel like it really could be the best match.
No, I really think you're right. I think it might. I mean, I really like the All-In Battle Royal. I thought that was awesome. And so if it's even somewhat like that, it has a really strong chance of being one of the better matches on the card. And like you said, after that Road to Double or Nothing, it really feels like it has a gravitas to it now. Like, it's not the Rumble, but it's cool. It's cool, and I really want to see it.
Yeah, I've got a few points on the Battle Royal. First of all, this episode of Road to Double or Nothing was really well produced. It was probably the most well-produced thing I've seen out of AEW that I've seen personally. It did a really good job making me care about people in a really quick, like 90 to 120 second span. 3 people that I had never heard of before, and all of them had very unique, likable stories that it drew me in as a viewer who had never heard of these people. Every one of them had some unique quality to them that made me want to see more. One thing that stood out to me was Brandon Cutler getting emotional as he spoke about his journey to this point in his career, about how he had basically given up on wrestling, and about how much it means to him and his wife, and just seeing him on the verge of tears.
Yeah. That was really amazing. He almost, he was tearing up. I love Brandon Cutler, and I have no idea who he is.
Yeah, his reaction seemed super genuine, and like he was genuinely excited to have an opportunity to return to wrestling and actually make a career of it with this opportunity.
Yeah, and also, one of the other interviews, Sonny Kiss, we talked about it last week, where I called him a flamboyant character, because I didn't know if it was, a gimmick or what, because it's wrestling, but, he talked about being this role model for LGBT wrestlers who are coming up, and people who are I don't know if I could be successful being how I really am, and he was you totally can, and he is a reference of that. He debuted 2013. He hasn't been in wrestling that long, and he's already been in Lucha Underground, and now he's signed to AEW. Sonny Kiss, I'm just learning about him, but he's clearly been skyrocketing, and so that's just cool. On top of that, and we talked about Nyla Rose earlier, and he feels he has this responsibility to be this motivation, to be this representation to the LGBT community.
I have another point about how the Battle Royal has been advertised. Cody said a lot about how the Battle Royal could be a real stepping stone to put an unknown wrestler on a plateau, for a platform for them to launch themselves off of and really get into the eye of people who've never heard of them before. But the wording of Over the Budget Battle Royal leads me to believe that there's going to be a few surprise entrants, familiar faces, maybe you'll see the Hurricane, or Scott Steiner is another person I feel might be making an appearance because of his other appearances on other things that AEW has produced. So I don't really know who is actually going to come out of this as the winner. Is it going to be an established star? Is it going to be one of these new people that we're just being introduced to? It's really interesting, and I'm really excited to see what direction they go with on this, especially when there's talk of a great incentive, a big prize at the end of this match.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be Scott Steiner throwing over people, Kevin Nash, WCW Cruiserweight style.
I think that would be the worst way to go about it. I think that there's a good chance that someone like Sonny Kiss makes it a long way in the Battle Royal and could even potentially win it. That was honestly one of my first thoughts as they were going over Sonny Kiss's story through Road to Double or Nothing was this could be the person that they're positioning to win this match right away, just straight away from the way I saw it. And the way that Sonny Kiss stepped up to the plate and said, I am the representative for this community and I will continue to be a role model. For a second, I was like, I've never heard of you. How are you this role model? But then I really thought about it and I was like, well, you're someone who's willing to step up to the plate and say, I'm a gay wrestler and I can be flamboyant and I can be as beautiful as I want to present myself and still wrestle and still do the same thing any other man does and continue to compete that way. And I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool that All Elite is giving Sonny Kiss this platform to go out there and be that role model for other superstars who are looking to wrestle and also be able to come out and be comfortable with themselves.
And I want to talk, like, I don't have anything to add to that other than you're right, and I think he's awesome, and I think it's going to be cool. And I already, like, we said it, like, I already love Brandon Cutler. I have no idea who he is. I already love Sonny Kiss. I have no idea who he is. And I want to talk about Kip Sabian, because I don't know who he is, but I love him. Because I think Phil mentioned it, but, like, Kip Sabian looks cool, and he talked about how he spent like 6 years with the Knight Family's promotion, which is Paige's family, which is cool. And I don't know, like, he's saying like he wants to make a splash, like he wants to be remembered, and like I think that's most of all. Like, I feel like he's gonna bring a performance to this, like he's gonna really go all out, or at least I hope so. Like, I hope it's not just a promo. Like, I hope he's like really saying like he's gonna tear it up in the Rumble, or not the Rumble, the Battle Royal, but I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about Kip Sabian? Because, Phil, you talked about him earlier.
I thought
but,
that his action promo, like, you know, when they have them do, like, flips with, like, no sound and, like, he's beating up some fucking big jobber. Alright, so I thought Kip looked cool because he was doing flips in his action promos where they have him with no sound, beating up some guy you've never seen before. I feel like he looks crisp. He'll probably do something that will make people stand up and appreciate him and all the things that he sacrificed to get to the point that he's gotten to now. I really think he's going to turn some heads.
And kudos to All Elite for picking this guy up, because I've been paying attention to the UK indie scene for a while since things started to blow up before the WWE really took on the UK NXT thing and everything like that. And he's someone who I didn't really know much about, but coming from Paige's family, the Knight family, they are a family who has a reputation to produce good wrestlers at the very least. And so I think he's going to be a strong talent for All Elite, and it also adds another international feel, which is just another good thing for them as well. And I don't believe there's a ton of UK talent necessarily available anymore now that WWE has signed up a lot of those guys. So good on them for picking up somebody that they thought would be worth it early on.
So going back to the actual reward for winning this match, the great incentive, what do you guys think that will actually be? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Cody talked about how there's going to be a great incentive and it's going to put the winner on the board. That's what he said. I'm going to, like, just throw out the obvious guess, but, like, it could be the AEW title. Like, they don't have the AEW title yet, but it's pretty obvious they will. So
how mad would Adam Cole or Adam Page be?
I don't think he'd be mad because he's doing his thing with Pac, and
but he came out initially and said that he wanted the championship. Pac came out and said he wanted the championship. So I think it could be the championship or just an automatic championship opportunity.
I really believe the match between Page and Pac will be for the title, that initial first title match, and perhaps the winner of this battle royal will get a shot. That's what I thought as well. That's obviously the first thing you think of when something like an incentive, something vague, you automatically go to title shots and things like that. You don't get much more prestigious than title shots.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like a secondary championship.
That would be awesome. Because, I mean, they're definitely going to need one.
Do an all-elite 24/7 championship where they defend it at these little indie promotions while they're waiting to get ready for TV and stuff.
That would be really rad.
That would actually be really cool.
That would be something they could do. I don't think it's necessarily their idea. I think you guys are right that it's probably just going to be like either a championship match or a contract for a championship opportunity, which is a really good way to go about it as well.
I mean, now that we're on the topic of it, though, WWE isn't good at booking their, like, undercard titles. But that doesn't mean that, like, the Intercontinental title hasn't been more interesting than the WWE title, like, back before. Like, you can book undercard titles really, really well, and I feel like they will. So I think Cody would be right, if that is what it is, to say this is going to put them on the map. Because in a lot of ways, whoever holds that title, like you said, they're going to be going town to town still. And I feel like that will put them on the map. They'll be an AEW guy at that point.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to go about it. And I also think that it kind of complicates things if it is a championship opportunity straight away for their main title, because then you would have to present an opponent that is on the level of someone like Pac or Adam Page, and you'd have to build up that match. So you obviously aren't going to go with a Kip Sabian or a Sonny Kiss or a Brandon Cutler just off of their performance in this Battle Royal. So I think a lower card championship could definitely be a route that they go. And then after they finished going over the budget Battle Royal in the Road to Double or Nothing, they closed out the show with Cody sitting down and watching the promo that Chris Jericho had cut, the one that we previously went over, taking credit for the 4-minute sellout, and Cody was just clearly angry, and I think this is one of the best shots in wrestling I've seen in general in a very long time.
Yeah. And now I'm like, okay, so how, is like Cody involved in this? And how is he going to be involved in that's some interesting stuff, because that's not something I would have expected, especially after we just saw the last Road to Double or Nothing where we're building up Cody's opponent. And now he has his eyes on Jericho? Kinda?
Yeah, my first takeaway from this segment was, why is there a knee brace on Cody Rhodes? I had completely forgotten that he had surgery on his knee in January. So I thought I had missed something at some point until I had realized that he had indeed suffered a legitimate injury. Another thing that I took away from this, my personal opinion is that it's a build towards a match in the future. I don't think right now we're going to get a payoff because Omega and Jericho already is a great match. You don't need to add anything more to it. I believe that Cody and Jericho is a logical step in the next direction. Obviously, they're going to meet at some point as the biggest face and the biggest heel in the company. Obviously, their paths are going to cross. And I think this is like the seed that's being planted for the next step.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it would be cool to see them. And whatever that show in Jacksonville is going to be, that would be a really good way to get eyes on it. And, they might keep doing that where, like, they keep promoting the shows with Jericho as, like, a big, like, first... Like, because I think one of the first matches they announced for it was Jericho Omega, right? As soon as they could anyways, right? No, they didn't announce the match, but I felt like I knew. Like, who else is... Once they signed Jericho, I think all the rumors started of, like, okay, it's going to be Omega, right? Like, it's got to be Omega. But to that point, I don't know. We've seen Omega Jericho a few times already, so that's a good reason why they wouldn't run it 2 times. But I don't think it's impossible that they do Omega Jericho and then another Omega Jericho. Because, at this point, it's like a blood feud.
Yeah, and the Omega Jericho thing stems from All In. If you remember, Jericho attacked Kenny Omega after his match with Pentagon Jr. at All In. So it's a good way for them to continue this story. And I think this just sort of establishes a rift between Cody and Jericho. It sort of establishes, okay, Jericho's the primary heel in the company. Cody's going to establish himself as one of the primary faces by being angry about this. And sort of saying, we as a company did this together. Why are you going out and saying these things? We're not the WWE. This is not how we do things. We do things like an upstart independent company where we work together. It's not the young guy's job to come to you and thank you for the house anymore. And I think this is Cody's way of maybe just establishing himself as more of an authority figure as well. Maybe down the road, Cody won't be wrestling so much as more won't be wrestling so much either.
You think? You think that Cody would want to stop?
His responsibilities within the company at this point, he might have to stop or at least cut it back quite a bit.
Kind of like a Triple H schedule.
Yeah, and it's understandable, really. Like, it's not because he's old, but it's just he's got a lot on his plate now if he's really an executive vice president of a company.
It's not kayfabe, right? Like, it's real. Like, they are executive vice presidents. Like, that's not just a title.
Yeah, no, that's how they've all been presented as the executive vice presidents, and that's why they all get, like, health insurance coverage and all of that. That's why Cody went over that about all of the official staff, like the executive vice presidents would all be covered with medical insurance and things of that nature. And Double or Nothing has a really great, almost cinematic ending, and that's great to see from All Elite, as it was a bit concerning that for a while, being the Elite is a great show, but it's not necessarily on par to the production that the WWE uses. You can tell it's shot on a phone, you can tell it's a little jittery sometimes, and when you're watching Double or Nothing, you could tell that it's presented in like a more professional standpoint. But the nice thing about being the Elite is they're allowing the other superstars to make a name for themselves or present themselves. For example, in being the Elite 138, everybody went to Atlanta. They were all appearing for a local indie promotion there, and that was a really exciting point of that episode, I feel like. Like, just all of the superstars coming out in this promotion, an indie promotion. The fans were obviously surprised by Cody Rhodes coming out to join Adam Page at one point, and then the local wrestlers even got a handover, or got the local wrestlers even got over Hangman and Cody for a minute and beat him down before MJF was able to make the save. So they even gave the rub to those local guys with this appearance at this indie show.
Yeah. Also, like, on note of that, like you said, the production might not be as good, but they're going to Atlanta. Like, they're going to Seattle. They're traveling a lot, and they're doing these at indie shows. So, like, you can't get the stabilizer and the tripod and the boom mic and everything at every single location. So, like, for what it is, it's pretty well done, I'd say. Because, like, a lot of this has to be on the spot, considering that this has to be a crazy, hectic schedule. And it's cool. It was cool, like you said. We got to see the local guys put over, and the more they do this, like, they're giving exposure to these local companies, like, not just the wrestlers, but, like, they're telling the world, hey, there's wrestling near you. Like, you can go and see these shows they're crashing.
I'll just say that being the Elite is kind of more like a silly thing, where the Road to Double or Nothing kind of feels like I'm watching a documentary with the production value and how serious most of it is. Where being the Elite are kind of like silly skits, like when Joey Ryan is beat down by Lil Cholo from Lucha Underground. I mean, like, unless we're like building towards something legitimate there, it's not like as important as the things you'll see on Road to Double or Nothing. So I feel like the production quality matches the content, if that kind of makes any sense.
I think it's fair to say to an extent, but I also think that if you watch Being the Elite, you watch it also for the little hints and the little tidbits of stuff. Like, in this episode, they had talked about the Goldberg's bagels in the background, or they didn't talk about it, but they had Goldberg's bagels in the background, and it sort of had the internet talking about, could Goldberg possibly go to All Elite? And then they also utilize these shows to, like, promote some wrestlers. Like, MJF has really been able to capture his character on that show, at least, and it's been able to create this heel character for himself that I think has been really great.
I love it. I love it. I love how much of a dick MJF is, and I want to see him be a dick more. Also, he said it looks like a horse pissed on Cody's hair, and then he needs toner. It's just like the silliest shit. Also, they're kind of building up something with him and Paige, aren't they?
Yeah, it looks like they definitely could be
Great.
setting the stage for something with Adam Page and MJF in the future, but then going into episode 139, they sort of continued on with the fact that MJF just has a problem with Cody Rhodes more than anything. Cody Rhodes actually provided MJF with a steak. He was trying to chum up with MJF in Cody's backyard, and MJF just took the steak, put it in Cody's dog's face, and then threw it into the yard.
That was messed up. That was not okay. That was like, I really hope they like gave it a steak after they turned off the camera. I know they didn't though.
And during this episode of Being the Elite, they did a really good job of covering some of the other things that happened during the press conference. They covered Adam Page and his situation that he had going on with Pac and how he wanted to have a championship match. And in the middle of Adam Page's moment at the press conference, Pac quickly interrupted him and said that he had no problem fighting Adam Page. And then they set up a match for Double or Nothing. And after Pac's video ended, Adam Page made a good point that Pac could only arrive via satellite and that he was best at sitting at home. Just a nice jab from Adam Page about Pac's time with the WWE when he had to sit at home for about 8 months.
Yeah, we talked about it a little before, but damn, that's got to be the title match, right? Like, it's got to be the title match because I want to see that match more than Omega and Jericho, which is saying a lot. Like, at this point, I really want to see this match because it's so cool. Everything they've done for it is so cool. And it's not a lot, actually. They haven't done really anything except for that MGM Grand. They did a promo from him on his phone, and I still want to see Hangman versus Pac.
Yeah, personally, for me, the person I'm excited to see most, to see how well they thrive in this new company, is Pac. I was really interested with his promo. It was a lot better than I expected from him. It's a lot better than I remember from him. I really like how he changed his Twitter handle to go with this whole bastard thing.
Yeah, I know you really didn't see WWE near the end of Neville's run, but like he really upped his promo game around that time. And like he started doing some really, really cool stuff as a heel, and they just weren't using him well. So like you said, this is like the best place for him. Like right now, I feel like he can really take the stage. Like as much as it seems like, oh man, maybe Hangman's gonna be like an ace. Like I feel like Pac is gonna naturally become the best talent they have.
I think that he is no doubt the second biggest heel in the company, and I believe that this will be the title match. There's a lot of references to the title around these two guys, especially Adam Page. They're really, really making it known that they see him as a star, and they're probably going to treat him as such and put him in immediately into the title picture.
They want him as a main eventer, and he should be too. They're totally right, because he's hot right now, and there's really not going to be a better time than I think right now for AEW to have him.
Yeah, and it just sort of goes along with the fact that All Elite is really good at just promoting their matches over the long term. It just goes along with the... Shut up, bro. Relax. It just goes along with the fact that All Elite's really good at promoting their matches over the long term and keeping things interesting, despite the fact that they still don't even have a pay-per-view event for another 3 months. So it was a really good job by them of doing that. After that segment, they went to another one of the Joey Janela segments, and Joey Janela was blind once again. This time he gets his girlfriend Penelope Ford stolen from him by Scott Steiner, as you guys had sort of brought up earlier. What were your thoughts on that?
It was great. It was my favorite. Penelope? Is that you? And then Scott Steiner being like, don't worry, we'll tape it. You can't see it. You're blind.
I don't know really what purpose this segment served. I can only assume that it's to build towards Scott Steiner and Joey Janela maybe being in the Battle Royal. If nothing comes of it, it'll probably just be written off for me as a fever dream.
I think the funny part about it is they just kind of... They know the segment sucks right now. They know the Janela stuff they've got going on isn't really that great. And it's unfortunate, honestly. Like, Janela's known for his nice, cool video packages and stuff, so I get it. They're just doing stuff to keep him relevant and keep him looking reckless. But I think this is someone that they're risking making him look like a goofball before things even get going, and that's a problem. You can only do something like this for so long before you're like a month into it, and you're like, this guy's nothing. He's a joke. And that's not something that I would think should happen with someone who's, like I said, hype packages were so dope just a couple years ago.
I mean, Janela, even as a wrestler, is insane. And, like, that's a wrestler on this roster I know. And I know is awesome, and I know can bring it. I mean, he's a deathmatch wrestler, even. Like, this is a dude who's jumped off a 30-foot building. He's insane. And, like, he's gonna be able to do amazing things in this company. So I hope he's not just gonna be a comedy character. I hope they fully utilize Janela, and I think they will. I don't think Janela would even do these promos unless, like, he knew his situation was good. I feel like it's going to be a good direction for him, whatever they do.
It really seemed so surreal. The whole thing was just so surreal. I don't really know what to make. I don't really know what to make of it.
I definitely hope that it's a good direction for him. Like I said, he's a superstar that I think could be at least a good mid-level to an upper mid-level guy who could really do something good for the company. So definitely don't want to see them waste all of that opportunity early on. And then after that segment, they transitioned to a segment of Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and I believe Kenny Omega all getting ready to crash another independent wrestling event. And just how did you guys feel about this event that they crashed this time?
I mean, it was interesting because it was, a really small indie promotion with a small band, and they got really into it.
Yeah, dude, a real small band being the Backstreet Boys. I thought that was good and funny, I suppose.
I think it went on a little too long. I remember thinking to myself when they did it again and they went to another one, I was kind of like, when is this going to end? But I guess that's just me being a grouch.
I mean, you knew it wasn't going to be a show. It was like, it is what it is. It was just a silly little segment. But yeah, it did run a little long.
Like, one issue that I had with it was just that last week watching them actually invade an independent show was really like an exciting experience to watch and was just like good wrestling content. And then this week it's just, we went to a Backstreet Boys concert, which, I mean, I guess you work with the cards you're dealt, and that's the schedule they're on, and that's what they had time to go do. So be it. They probably didn't have any shows lined up or whatever at the moment. So
they did imply also at the end of the episode that I don't remember if it was Nick or Matt, but they were sending a text message, the Jacksons, so then he bought him a plane ticket. So I mean, it seems like the next episode we're gonna see another crash, but I mean, they're doing it so much, you can't expect them to crash a show every being the Elite.
With the angel emoji, I think that could be, I mean, there's obviously no telling until it happens, but it could be an indication of something along those lines.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. I wonder what that was about, because the response to "Where Are We Going" was an angel emoji. I have no idea where that could go. I can't even speculate on what that could be.
I think it just means they're going to another town to crash a show, if I had to guess.
And yeah, just that text message exchange between Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson was sort of the closing segment of Being the Elite, and it was a good way to close out the show. It wasn't necessarily on par of Road to Double or Nothing, but it was still a really good way to promote that they've got something coming up in the future and sort of a nice little cliffhanger at the end of the show. So I thought that was a really smart way to wrap things up for them. And then speaking of wrapping things up, that about wraps it up for the All Elite podcast this week. AJ, do you have anything that you want to plug?
Right now, my Twitter is BigMatchAJ, and my Instagram is AJ the Fitzy, and you can follow me on both those. That's FITZY.
And Phil, how about you? Do you have anything on social media that you need to plug?
You can follow me on Twitter at Phillip Diminno. That's Diminno. 2 L's on Phillip.
And for me, guys, you can just check out our Twitter at All Elite Podcast. We are at about 150 followers, and once we boost up over 200, we're going to be doing our second t-shirt giveaway. So be sure to share and tell your friends to tune in. And until next week,
Bye.
bye.
See ya.
Until you guys can show me a card, an actual wrestling card. Oh, come on. Okay. AEW? Huh? It's nothing but a t-shirt company.